In recent years, Arsenal and Manchester United have had very, very different fortunes, both on and on the pitch. But historically, it is a massive rival. There are huge bragging rights attached to this game. So, how do we beat Manchester United? Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered. My name is Mark, and as you heard at the top, we are going to be discussing how do we beat Manchester United. We've got them on Wednesday night in the league. As I sit here now, I'm recording this on Tuesday before the Tuesday matches get underway. So not only do we have them on Wednesday night, but I know that we also have them in the FA Cup third round in January, which is not a draw I was particularly happy with. To see Liverpool and City get such easy ties at a crucial bit of the season, I think we've got to play Villa and Tottenham either side of this third round match to get Manchester United, where we're going to have to put out a stronger team than we probably wanted to, and those teams will be able to rotate really heavily. So frustrating, but it is what it is. It's just the gift that keeps giving this season in terms of our outcomes, in terms of how the coin tosses are going for us. It is chance. It's not rigged, as I saw someone from AFTV say. It's absolutely not rigged. It's just the fact, the vagaries of football. This can happen. We can have a couple of really bad red cards and a couple of unlucky injuries and then a bad draw. It can happen. There are a very few, but there are a couple of things that are going for us this season. We have to hold on to them and hope that some of these vagaries of football are going to start turning in our favour more regularly. So how do we beat Manchester United? Because we've got to beat them twice now if we have aspirations in both the league and the FA Cup. Well, to beat them, it sounds like we're going to have to do it without some players. Mikel Arteta has been in his press conference today and he was very, very withdrawn about the Arsenal injury situation. We know that in the previous game, Mikel Merino and Thomas Partey did not even get on the bench, I should say, due to problems with knees and thighs respectively. We know Gabriel Magalhaes was withdrawn at 45 minutes, a half time, for Gabriel, and Ricardo Calafiori was withdrawn at kind of 65 minutes, went off holding his groin. Gabriel, of course, had been punched in the face, but we're led to believe from Mikel that wasn't the reason for him coming off. It's from the niggles that he had from previous games, and actually they needed to manage him. So that's a couple of really key players that we might not have. Mikel said there was a meeting going to happen this afternoon. A couple of players hadn't trained, so they needed to discuss and make a decision on those guys. So we are probably, I'm guessing, we're going to be without at least one, maybe two of those guys. So we're going to have to do it as we have done seemingly for every win this year, without a couple of our key players or, that group of 13, 14 guys who are really pushing for a starting 11 spot. Manchester United will also be without a couple of key players. Lisandro Martinez is the main one. Kobe Mainu is also out. Both have been suspended, picking up too many yellow cards. But Lisandro Martinez is one of their better defenders, even since they brought Matthias de Ligt. And even though he does have a completely stupid, rash challenge in him, he's very Sergio Romero-like. You would never want him in your team, but you can see when you're playing against them that there might be some good qualities in there. You just know that there's 3 stupid moments in a season, which would mean you'd never want this player in your team. We'd never want him anywhere near Arsenal. But I am still glad to see him not able to play against us, because it gives us more of a chance, right? If they're missing their best defenders, that is always going to be a bonus. I always think, if you miss a striker, yes, it might be difficult to get goals. Yes, you might have to kind of attack in different ways, but you can nick one off a set piece. You can still defend really well. One of your wingers can come in and contribute perhaps and kind of make up that gap. But when you're missing a key defender, you start crumbling from the base of your team, right? That centre-back and maybe 6 pairing is really important to every single team that plays like that. And, you start dropping centre-backs. Even, Man United are going to play back 3 system. So dropping a centre-back out of that system where they have to be so dynamic and cover so much ground, that is also a really big win for us. So both teams are going to be without some players, and it's an interesting one because it's a Wednesday night. And I have written this at the end of my notes, but I'm going to come to it first because it just feels right to talk about it. So it's going to be a Wednesday game, 8:15 kickoff, under the lights, and we are at home. And I think, how do we beat Man United? If we're asking ourselves that question, the atmosphere is absolutely going to be part of that. Absolutely. I think I'd be much more nervous about this game if it was away. And that seems like an obvious thing to say. Away games are always harder than home games. But with the new manager bounce and the good feeling going around Manchester United after their 4-0 win versus Everton, I feel like having them at home and not having to go to Old Trafford, where that place might be a little bit more electric, where there might be, just that evening under the lights atmosphere, I think it's fantastic that we're at home, and they're actually going to come to their first test, really, because, let's be honest, they've played Ipswich, Bodo Glimt and Everton. And with all due respect to those teams, coming to the Emirates is a different kettle of fish. To play Arsenal is a different kettle of fish. And I do think there is a good chance that, with it being a late kickoff, a couple of drinks will have happened, people will have come after work, excited for their evening's entertainment. I do think there is a big chance that this starts to overwhelm a Manchester United team who haven't looked good for a number of seasons now. It's the same players who haven't looked good for a number of seasons, and who are all trying to absorb information about a new system. A new system that is very different. They're not going from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1, right? They are going from a 4-2-3-1 to a 3-4-3. It's very different. Very different tactically. They've got to pick up very different positions. The centre-backs especially have to pick up much more ground. And I should also mention the wing-backs. They've got to cover a lot more ground. There's a lot going on for them. And I actually think that if the Emirates really gets going, I'm gutted I can't get tickets for this one, really am. It's one of those Category A fixtures that you're just never going to get tickets for unless you're super, super lucky. I think if the Emirates crowd really gets up to it and gets on them early, they're going to struggle because it's going to be a very difficult environment. If we'd been at Old Trafford, I do think that would be reversed. The new manager bounce would help them. The crowd would be right up for it. And rather than it being like, oh, this is our first test and we're under the lights, it would be like, this is our first chance to show what we're really about under Ruben Amorim. And I'm glad that we are not going to have to deal with that in Ruben Amorim's kind of bounce, and we're going to play them away when we're much deeper into the season. We know a lot more about how Manchester United are going to play, and I think teams will have sussed them out probably by then. That'll be around 20 games time. So a lot of water will have gone under the bridge at that point. So I think that atmosphere is a really, really big positive, and I think it's also a positive in the Newcastle-Liverpool game. Newcastle have been terrible. However, they might get that effect that I've just described for Arsenal versus Liverpool. So we can all cross our fingers there and hope for a good result for Newcastle in that game. So what will Manchester United offer up in way of resistance to Arsenal, in way of threat to Arsenal? Well, I think there's three players we need to watch out for. One is super obvious, Bruno Fernandes. He has been their only player who has consistently shown up year in, year out for Manchester United in, the last 5 seasons, I would say. We've watched players like Marcus Rashford go hot and cold very quickly. We've seen Casemiro hot and cold very quickly. There was a time where Casemiro, Rodri and Partey were all in this kind of best 6 in the league discussion, and that very quickly got put to sleep as Casemiro and Partey dropped off and Rodri obviously elevated to Ballon d'Or level performances. They've got a lot of hot and cold players, but Bruno Fernandes is not one of them. He's had fantastic output for many seasons for Manchester United now. And this year he has 5 assists and 2 goals to his name, which is not a scintillating return, right? But in a team that has been really struggling and I think has been bottom half of the table to their most recent result pretty much the whole way through the league, it's not bad. He also has 3 of those 5 assists in the last 3 Premier League games, I should say. So that's, he's found a bit of form as Manchester United have come into this period with post Ten Hag period, I should say. he's found a little something, maybe just a little bit of release from whatever was going on with Ten Hag, and I don't think we'll ever truly know what all that was about. Amad Diallo is another one. He has 5 assists as well, 4 assists in his last 3. Now, he looks like a player a little bit reborn. His pace on the wings is very, very interesting, and something, he's been playing off the right a little bit, so something that will be interesting. We've seen Calafiori get done a couple of times for pace this year, and if he's not playing, probably next in is Zinchenko, because we can't get Timber over on that side with Ben White out. Tomiyasu's not ready. It probably is Zinchenko because Lewis Skelly has had an injury as well. So how do we feel about that? I think that's the side they're going to target, the area they're going to target as always, and Amad Diallo might be a big threat to us down that side. And I do think if Gabriel is fit, he will be a key player in stopping that threat. I am a bit worried about the idea that both Gabriel and Calafiori could be out, and we could be left with a Kivior Zinchenko left-hand side of our defence up against a Amad Diallo who is in some good form and playing well. So we need to really be careful and cross our fingers that at least one of those guys are fit. I think if at least one of those guys are fit, we should be able to manage it, because he's not the best player in the world. I just think he's their form player, and he is impressive. When you watch Manchester United, very few things stand out as positives, but I reckon he's one of them. And Marcus Rashford, I mentioned before, he goes hot and cold. He's in I'm going to call it a warm patch, not quite a hot patch. He's got 4 goals this season, their top scorer, and 3 of them have come in the last 2 games. So 2 against Everton, and the very early goal against Ipswich. He scored a couple of goals just out of nowhere, really. And interesting how we have seen this before with Marcus Rashford. He loves when a new manager comes in, seems to start playing for them quite quickly, and he loves a goal against Arsenal, scored a lot against us. So he's another one we need to watch out for. They have pace in those 2 players, and Garnacho as well, can't forget him. They have pace on the counter-attack in transition. So we do need to be wary of that, and we do need to make sure that we're managing transitions really well. I feel like I say that every week, but actually a lot of the times when Arsenal go to play a team, especially at home, who aren't Manchester City or Liverpool, we know that they are going to give us a lot of the ball. We know they're going to give us a lot of the ball. And therefore, their route to success is often fast transitions when they turn the ball over in their third or the middle third and trying to break on us and catch our defence in a slightly less optimal position, or just catch them sleeping altogether. So that is what we need to be wary of, and Fernandes can make those passes from the middle of the pitch. Christian Eriksen can make those passes from the middle of the pitch to release those 3 players going forward. We just need to be wary of it. And I think, how do we combat that? Well, we keep the ball from them. Let's be honest. The 3 games they've played under Amorim so far, they have not had a real challenge, but they've had over 60% possession in all of them. They're not going to get that against us. And I do think that this will be a real test of Amorim's system and how well these players know it, because they're not going to have much of the ball. Very few teams that come to the Emirates do have a lot of the ball. And when they do have more possession than us, it's often kind of garbage possession, because we've decided actually we're going to manage them through a low block or a mid block. We're not going to let them through, and we're going to be the team that hits them on transition. So we're going to need to keep the ball off them and, make them pay, I think, a little bit. They have had an increased kind of feeling of positivity thanks to Amorim coming in, and they've had the ball in a lot of these easy games. Let's make them suffer a little bit. Let's keep the ball off them and see how resilient that kind of 3-4-3 system is against a team that knows what they're doing. And let's start to expose the fact that they don't know this system yet. I'm not saying that in 10, 15, 20 games' time, Manchester United won't be a well-oiled 3-4-3 machine who are producing, really high levels of football. They could be that team. They've got talent there. They've got Mathis de Ligt, they've got Martinez, they've got Fernandes, Rashford can be good, Højlund or Xerxes might come good at some point, one of those two. There are players there, right? But right now, this team does not know that system. They cannot know that system. I think Amorim has come out in his press conference earlier today and said that he's been doing walkthroughs, 12-minute walkthroughs of scenarios with players because they literally haven't been able to train because of the schedule that they've had since he came in. And, it's busy for every team at the moment. So he obviously has a real challenge to get his ideas across to his team in such a short period of time with so many games. I would like to quickly talk about us against the 3-4-3. I've spoken about it a number of times, and we obviously saw it when we played Sporting, how this 3-4-3 system is, it's gold dust for elite teams to attack against. It doesn't have fullbacks in any way, shape or form. They say wing-backs kind of do that, but wing-backs, they're much more a midfielder than they are a defender. And especially with a team that can attack as quickly as we can, they're going to be chasing their tail rather than setting a defensive block against our wingers. So there are no fullbacks. And in this system, there is also no really dedicated six because those two midfield players become basically eights. Casemiro, Eriksen, Fernandes. Well, actually, I think Fernandes has played further forwards at times for United. But we saw it against Sporting, right? Amorim's old team playing Amorim's system. There was no six to cover that space. So there are huge amounts of space around the opposition penalty area. And this system requires you to be the better team, okay, to have the better players, and to use your additional numbers further up the pitch to suffocate the opposition team. I don't think that this Manchester United team are going to do that to us. I don't think they're good enough. I think we are far better than they are when you could look at kind of individual personnel. And as I've just spoken about, there's no way in hell they know this system at all, really. And we know our system so well. So if we've got the players out on the pitch that know that, feel comfortable in this system and have that quality, there's no way that this system is going to be how they defeat us. I think they will need to pull a surprise to beat us. Because the 3-4-3 that Sporting displayed against us and that Manchester United displayed against Ipswich was miserable, to be fair. Miserable. Sporting allowed us an XG of 4. We scored 5. Ipswich were allowed 1.6 XG versus Manchester United. And look, it's one game. They didn't allow quite as much against Everton, but Everton are hopeless. They are absolutely terrible, so let's just forget about Everton. Ipswich are a team that I think are probably going to go down this year, but they do have some decent players. I can't say that fella's name. Sami Samojic, Liam Delap. They've got some players who are intelligent enough to know what they're doing, and they quite quickly found spaces behind the Manchester United midfield and in front of that defence. And who likes to operate in those areas? Kai Havertz, Bukayo Saka, Martin Odegaard. These players are a cut above Ipswich's team, just maybe 2-3 leagues above them, and Ipswich still created 1.6 against this Manchester United system. 1.6 XG. I do think that those spaces are going to be key for us beating them, and the likes of Saka and Martinelli, if both are fit, will be so integral to just exploiting the fact that they're leaving huge gaps. And if they come and try and play us, we can go over the top to Kai. I think that will be a bloodbath. If they come and try and low block us, well, their system really doesn't fit well for that, and we are playing better and better against low blocks every time I see it. If they come and try and mid block us, we'll do them in transition. I think they have to pull a surprise and not go 3-4-3 in this game if they've got any chance of beating us. But will Amorim want to do that? Will Amorim want to do that when he's trying to get his message across to his players? I don't think he will. I think he'll want to show some faith in his system, get his team out there practicing it against a big team, against a team who really can attack well, who know how to keep the ball, and I think he'll pay the price for that rigidity. He might almost kind of cast the game away and say, well, maybe we'll nick a win, but if not, this is more of a learning experience than it is a valuable 3 points. So I think all of these things combined, the atmosphere of the evening game, the midweek game, the fact that they are probably going to play a 3-4-3, which I think really plays into our hands, and the fact that if we've got our players fit, we will be able to manage their threat, I think that's how we beat them. I think that is how we beat them. Get the crowd up, exploit the spaces down the side and behind the midfield, like we did against Sporting, and let them play into our hands, because I don't think they are going to change anything, because I think Amorim's going to want to stick with his system. So that is how we beat Manchester United. I will, of course, be reviewing the game, as I always do. We have them in January as well, so it'll be interesting to see not only whether we are able to do this on Wednesday, but whether we're able to do it in January in the FA Cup third round, of course. One thing just to say before I go, if you've enjoyed this episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, or you've enjoyed any episode of Arsenal Unfiltered, please do give us a follow at your chosen podcast provider, which might be Spotify, might be Apple Podcasts, might be anything. If you give us a follow, all of the podcasts that I produce, which is 3 times a week here on Arsenal Unfiltered, will be sent immediately to your mobile device, so you'll get that straight into your feed, and you'll be able to listen to all the coverage that I'm doing. I do these kind of shorter topical coverages once a week and cover both games that we're playing each week as well. So 3 episodes a week for you to enjoy. So drop us a follow. It would be really appreciated. I hope we get a really great result against Manchester United. I hope we right some of the wrongs of the past. I do think this will be an Arsenal win, and I look forward to covering that Arsenal win for you on Thursday morning. But for now, thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.